Monster Handler Jen here, accompanied by the wonderful Monster Handler Allie for this spooktical edition of Monster Cuisine. And Monster Handler Allie, what will we be making today?
We are going to be making some Punkleton sugar cookies.
Ooh,
yes.
Now that sounds delectable. So let's take a look at some of the stuff that we're gonna need for this. So the first ingredients that we're gonna need for our Punkleton sugar cookies are going to be 3 cups of flour, a teaspoon of baking powder, and a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. So there's our first one. Now if you make a little bit of a mess, that's okay, as long as you clean it up after. Now Monster Handler Allie, I do want to stress that we do not eat Punkletons in the monster world. However, we can in the human world eat Punkleton inspired cookies because it's spooktical season, and why wouldn't we want to do that? There is our 3 cups of flour.
All right, and then we're gonna need 1 teaspoon of baking powder. Perfect.
There we go. So you'll mix that in with the flour and then just a little shake of salt. Just a little
sprinkle.
Just a boop. There we go. And then we're gonna wanna whisk that mixture together a little bit.
Make sure it's all blended up. And then we're just gonna set this bowl aside because we'll need it for later.
We're gonna take another mixing bowl and we're gonna mix together a cup of butter and a cup of sugar. Definitely recommend using more room temperature butter to make it a little bit easier to mix. But if all you have is cold butter, that is okay too. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw that butter right into the mixing bowl.
Perfect. All right, and then we're gonna add 1 cup of sugar to our butter mixture.
That looks good to me. We're gonna dump that right in there with the butter. We're gonna go ahead and start mixing this up. So I'm just breaking the butter off into some little chunks to make it a little bit easier to mix. And you're gonna wanna mix everything up until it's all kind of creamed together. All right, so now that we've creamed together the butter and the sugar, we're going to add in 1 egg and a teaspoon of vanilla extract. Good job. Didn't even break the yolk. So we've got the egg, we're gonna add in the vanilla extract now. Now you're gonna wanna mix that up pretty nicely. We don't wanna see any of the egg remnants really in there. We wanna mix it in nicely with the butter. It's gonna help with that sugar as well. Oh, that smells good already.
It does. I mean, you can't go wrong with butter and sugar.
No, definitely not. We are gonna take our original flour mixture and we're gonna add it in with the butter, sugar, and egg mixture now, but you're gonna wanna add it slowly because otherwise you're gonna get a snowstorm of flour. And I hear that is an actual baking term, Monster Handler Allie. Let's start by adding just a little bit and then we're gonna mix that up. And you're gonna wanna do this in batches, and you're gonna only wanna add more of the flour mixture once the rest of that flour's kind of been dissolved into that a little bit. Looking pretty good if you ask me.
Now we can add a bit more.
There we go.
Perfect. Oh no, we're
making a mess.
We're making a snowstorm.
That's all right. You can always, shovel after a snowstorm, unlike mammoths who do not enjoy shoveling. So you're gonna get to a point where your mixture is gonna start to become a little bit flaky, and that's totally normal. It might be easier at that point to start mixing by hand. It's gonna get stuck to your fingers, that's okay too. You're gonna have cookie hands. So we're gonna keep on mixing. You're gonna keep getting your hands a little goopy, a little glopticky, that's okay. Once you start kneading it together, it will start to form into a more solid dough. You just gotta work it a little bit. Yeah. Gotta put some love into it. Just like we love Punkleton. So you can see it's already starting to become a little bit more solid, which is perfect. All right, so once you kind of get the dough in a little bit more of a solid state like this, we are gonna just start by lightly sprinkling flour over our surface.
And this is a very important step so our cookies don't stick to our countertop.
So now that we have lightly floured our sanitized surface, we're gonna just dump the dough out, and you're gonna have a little bit of crumblies, and that's fine because we're just gonna finish off kneading this on our clean floured surface. So I'm just gonna grab some of these little crumbly bits and just start working them in. And this is the part where you get to make a mess. So it's kind of fun. We wanna get it a little bit more together, a little bit more solid. Am I doing a good kneading job here, Monster Handler Allie?
Yeah, you're doing a wonderful job.
There we go. We can see this is definitely a lot more solid now. It's really starting to come together and feel like a real cookie dough. All right.
That came together beautifully.
Perfect. So now that we've got our 2 perfectly kneaded cookie dough portions, I think we should maybe do them in maybe some batches instead of all at once. What do you think?
Yeah.
All right. So we're gonna add a little bit more flour to our cooking surface here. So now that we have our awesome little cookie dough ball that has come together, we've refloured our surface, I think we're ready to roll out the dough.
Yes. Now we're gonna roll this out, and we're not gonna make it too thin, but also not too thick. Just right.
That's the most important part. Wow, that dough really came together nicely.
Yeah, nice job, Jen.
We're gonna start cutting it with this pumpkin-shaped cookie cutter. So all you have to do is just very gently just press that through, do a little wiggle. And look at that, we've got what looks very much like a Punkleton.
It does.
Just gonna move that one out of the way.
Very handy that our cookie cutters are in shapes of pumpkins.
I know. Now, if you don't have a pumpkin cookie cutter, that's okay. I think you could probably do a circular cut with just a regular glass from home, and you can still decorate it like Punkleton. It'll still look awesome. There we go. Just gonna be very gentle with those after we've cut them. Ooh. All right, so once you get to this point where you don't have quite enough dough to make another one, we're gonna mix all this dough back up again.
And re-roll it.
Yep, because we don't wanna waste any of this delightful cookie dough. The next thing that we're gonna wanna make sure is that we've had an oven preheated to 350 degrees. And remember, if you're making this at home, ask an adult to help you with the oven because you don't wanna get burnt. So our non-conventional oven here is all ready. So I'm just gonna line our little baking sheet with some parchment paper, just like that, so the cookies don't stick. And we're gonna just start adding in some of those cookies. Now you're gonna wanna be careful with this because the dough is still, you know, it's a little bit crumbly. See how I've accidentally broken this, but that's okay because I can just push the dough back together, just like so. So you'll fill up your baking sheet just like that, and you're gonna bake these for about 9 to 11 minutes or until they're not really shiny or glossy on the top anymore. Our cookies have finished baking and we've let them cool for a couple hours because we can't put icing on hot cookies. Otherwise, they're just gonna melt everywhere. So Monster Handler Allie, all we did here was grab our favorite icing, or you can make your own at home from scratch, and just added some nice orange food coloring to get that iconic Punkleton color. If you don't have a piping bag at home, much like we don't, we just took a nice little plastic bag and cut the tip off, and we're gonna use this as our piping bag because you don't need to be a professional to be able to make cookies.
It works well.
So it doesn't have to be perfect. We just want to make that nice outline here and then start filling the gaps in, kind of like a big swirl. There we go. This icing is looking delectable, Monster Handler Allie. So once you've got your base on there, all you're going to want to do is just very gently tap it on the table just to fill in some of those holes and some of those gaps. All right, and you're just gonna wanna let that set for just a couple moments just so that it hardens a little bit before we put our black icing on for Punkleton's facial features.
All right, so the important part is putting on Punkleton's face. So first we're gonna start off with like 2 crescents first for his eyes. There's one. And then the other eye.
I'm really getting Punkleton vibes from that. That looks amazing, Monster Handler Allie. What's next?
Perfect, and now we just need the mouth. So we're gonna do a little W just at the bottom.
Beautiful.
Perfect.
All right, well, I think that we've done a fantastic job with these Punkleton-inspired sugar cookies. We hope you enjoy them and that you get to share them with all of your friends this spooktacle season. I guess we better go grab all the other BBB employees and share some of our delightful cookies with them.
I think they'll enjoy this.
But before we go, we have to say, Happy Monstering!